That's a story that's developing this hour. Former radio DJ Ngizwe Mchunu has been granted bail in the Randburg Magistrates Court. Mchunu is one of the people accused of instigating and urging others in the public to commit looting and violence that spread to various areas in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal earlier this month. Our reporter Silindelo Masikane is outside the Randburg Magistrate Court. This hour she has been covering that story for us. Silindelo, good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday View. Well, it happened. A couple of days ago, there was no certainty whether or not he'll get the bail. And how brief was the hearing, and what's been the reaction?
Well, it's been quite a lengthy morning here in the Randburg Magistrates Court, where we heard from the defense, that is Mchunu's lawyers, who poked some holes in the state's case in terms of the evidence against him. He is facing one charge of incitement as well as two charges of contravening the Disaster Management Act, and it seems as though the court as well as the magistrate was simply not convinced on the strength of the case. I just want to bring in the NPA spokesperson, just to give us a sense of, doesn't seem as though the court believes you guys have any case against the accused and has released him.
Well, we are not yet at the stage where, as the state, we are in a position to state our case. Here it was simply proceedings of a Schedule 1 bail hearing. The onus was on the state to prove that it is not in the interest of justice that the accused be released on bail. And yes, the court made comments that it is satisfied with the charge of contravention of Disaster Management Act, but however there was no evidence to support the incitement to commit public violence charge. So we are saying, as the state, these are the early stages. Much of the information will be revealed during trial.
All right, thank you so much, Mrs. Ndwane. I want to bring in the lawyer for Ngizwe Mchunu, that is Mr. Vusikati. A victory for your client today, it seems.
We took instruction earlier on before we entered to court, and we made him to depose an affidavit. And after that, we tried earlier on to discuss the state and show them that the strength of their case is still in doubtful stage at this stage. And they didn't agree to that with us. Then we decided to move the matter as a formal bail application. We presented our case as according to the Criminal Procedure Act, subsection 60, subsection 4, and the court agreed with us that at this stage the strength of the state case is still open to some doubt, which worked in the favor of the accused. So it was in the interest of justice. The court has no choice, because it is a creature of the legislature. It needs to follow those guidelines. Then it said it was beyond its control. So the interest of justice determined that our client is a good candidate for bail. And even at this stage, the state case is still open to some doubt.
Thank you. All right. But then I want to take you to the accused, who actually has just been released. He seems to now be addressing us. He has just been released from the cells. Let me try and put my mic in.
Yeah. So
I'm standing here to South Africa is free. 27 years later, the freedom fighter is in chain.
Yeah, all right. He is now reminded of the...
As you can hear, Brad, some of the bail conditions, I'm going to ask Tebza to just walk down with me, is that some of the bail conditions is that Ngizwe Mchunu cannot be addressing gatherings, he cannot be addressing crowds, and it hasn't even been half an hour since he received those bail conditions, and he has already seemingly contravened one of those aspects of the bail condition. His lawyers were trying to warn him to say, look, you can't be addressing crowds at this point, but it seems that he's very excited. Those here to support him are also very excited that he's come out. They've put him on his shoulders, and he's now coming out to a very large crowd here outside the Magistrates Court. Sorry about that. It's just a bit of a scuffle here, but you can see that the crowd here is very, very excited and happy that he's come out. As you can see, Ngizwe Mchunu is now on a bakkie. We're not sure if he's going to address this crowd. It will once again be a contravention of his bail conditions, but it does seem as though those here are very excited to see him come out. Yesterday, his family and his supporters were quite disappointed that the matter had to roll over to today. But it seems that those who are in support of Ngizwe are happy that he has come out. He's now on top of a bakkie, and while he drives off, I'll take you through some of the comments that the magistrate said in terms of why she had to release him, saying that it really did not serve the interests of justice to keep him in prison, saying that the state failed to prove the incitement of violence, and actually saying that a large part of the evidence that the state brought forward in terms of the video footage did not actually support the charge of incitement, but rather supported Ngizwe Mchunu's defense, to say that there's nowhere in the clips that were presented where he called on people to be violent, to loot, or to destruct or to destroy property rather. So the magistrate saying that she was actually compelled to release him on bail.
Sinsizwa zakithi ikhulu ikhulile kodwa ke ukuphuma kwalo kunemthetho angithi njengamanje ikhulu ngeke likwazi ukukhuluma nani ngoba inkantolo ithe lingakhulumi nani besicela ukuthi wonke umuntu la efake imask besacela ukuthi wonke umuntu efake imask bese siyahlukana.
As you can hear right then,
asikele sonke emontweni sohamba sonke sodlantshi somewhere abameli bazocommunicate nani besacela lokho ngigqoka ama-mask cela lokho ngigqoka ama-mask.
Well, but then one of his supporters reiterating to the crowd that Ngizwe Mchunu cannot address them, and that is simply because that his bail conditions do state that he is not allowed to be addressing gatherings at this stage. That is part of his bail conditions. He's been released on 2,000 rand bail. His supporters saying that they should disperse now, and that they should just really celebrate the fact that Ngizwe Mchunu has been released on bail.
Yeah, Silindelo, thank you very much. We can see that now they are leaving the precinct of the Randburg Magistrates Court, and that appeal for them to wear masks is not really being heeded. We can see many people there in the crowd still with no masks, but that speaker saying to them the DJ cannot address his supporters because that's one of the bail conditions. Can you remind our viewers what are the other bail conditions and what's next in this case?
Well, Pradan, besides not being able to address gatherings, He is also not allowed to convene gatherings, and he's also not allowed to incite violence on his social media platforms. Anything that incites hatred or discriminating ethnicity or race. And as you can see, the crowds are leaving in their numbers, but those are just a few of his bail conditions. And he's also, Bradan, not allowed to leave the Durban district or the Phoenix area. He's going to have to report to a police station at a certain time and date, and as well he's going to have to appear here. The only time he's really allowed to leave Johannesburg, leave Durban rather, is when he's going to appear at his following court appearances. And his next court appearance, Bradan, will be the 21st of October. The matter remanded until then for further investigations. And the magistrate's being very clear that just because she's granting bail, it does not mean that it's going to be revoked. So I think it's going to be quite interesting to see what the state will do now that he's been released, and following that address once more to the media, contravening one of the very first bail conditions which was set for him. So it's going to be interesting to see whether the state will apply for his bail to actually be cancelled.
I'm just wondering, the speaker there earlier, when he was asking the supporters to leave the Randburg Magistrates Court precinct and appealing for them to wear a mask, he said we are going to leave and going to have some lunch. Are they planning a gathering?
At this point, we don't know, but we certainly will try and find out. You can see that there's a large crowd that has gathered here. They're actually causing traffic at this point, dancing on the road, celebrating. I see cans of alcohol, no wearing of masks at this point. And you can only imagine, it's the excitement, I guess, of having him released at this point. However, we don't know yet. I do see one of his family spokespersons.
No, we are on top of trees. Come. We told them that this was section 21, that this was schedule 1, and if it is schedule 1, ordinarily bail becomes automatic, and the onus is on the state to prove that why you should keep the accused in court. There, the NPA was legally traumatized. The NPA was collapsed. Our lawyers were swimming with them. Our lawyers were mopping with them. Were in charge. Were on top of the trees. Were running this country. There is law in this country, and it was demonstrated by that magistrate. He's late.
Bongegila, you're not worried that the bail might be revoked? I mean, he contravened one of the very first premises of his bail conditions, which was not to address gatherings.
He never addressed anyone. He went outside of the court, and there was a mass of people that came to support him. He went inside the car, it is there in your videos, and he drove away. He never spoke to anyone. He never contravened anyone. And he was happy as all of us. We are happy. I'm saying, my sister, the NPA, again, it failed to prove that this was not a political case. This was never a criminal case. It has always been a political case. And Mukweng wanted them in his minority judgment in the case of the economic freedom fighters versus the Speaker of Parliament and the other in 2017 in the Concord, that the judiciary must cease to engage in judiciary overreach, because that tampers with the integrity and the independence of the judiciary and its effectiveness in terms of implementing and upholding the rule of law. So what happened there is a demonstration that indeed there is still hope in how the judiciary deals with the matters in the society. So we're very jubilant, my sister. We're happy and we're on top of the trees. Thank you very much.
All right, but ngiyabona manu uvunule kwenzakalani la?
Hayi umzimba Khalimali la. Oh, a traditional healer from Kwanongoma. Imali mthethwa mangihamba nje ngigqoka imali njengoba uyibona nje imali. I always this is my brand. Wherever I go I
Ujabulile namhlanje ujabulile.
Oh, yelala ubuthongo. Bengalali phela. Umfowethu lona uMacingwane. Ayikhale.
As you can hear, Praten, the message is says Khalile, which is a popular phrase that was used by Ngizwe Mchunu, and you can see that his supporters are absolutely ecstatic to have had him released.
Thank you very much, Silindelo Masikane, outside the Randburg Magistrates Court. We just stuck with those visuals, live visuals, as the DJ was being released, and then, of course, he had to observe the bail conditions, that he cannot address his crowd of supporters. They've left now. We don't know what's going to happen next, but he's supposed to be back in court later this year in October, as the trial and the case will continue at the time. This is